Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sincerely Self Podcast. I'm very excited because today I have my girl Liv with me. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I have had Liv on, I think, twice. Yeah. One time with Kate, and then one time you were like one of my first guests. Yeah. And I've talked about the setup issues that I've had in the last 3 episodes, and Liv was a trooper. She was helping me test things out, and then we ended up just going back to the OG mic. So we're gonna be passing this mic back and forth. If you're watching the YouTube, mind your business. We're still figuring out the soundboard, but I'm very excited to have Liv here with me, the first in-person guest of this year. If you do not know Liv, she is a licensed master esthetician and also an Alexandria Sugar professional. She's amazing at what she does, and I felt like she was the best person for me to bring on to talk about this topic and just the line of esthetician work as a whole. So, Liv, tell us a little bit about you and kind of how long you've been an esthetician and what led you to the field.
Thanks, Lex. Thank you for having me on. Third time's a charm, right?
For real.
I have wanted to be an esthetician since I was really little. I always was doing, facials on my family and doing nails and all that kind of beauty stuff. So I always knew that I wanted to be in the beauty industry. And I started Paul Mitchell right after I graduated high school. I graduated in May of 2021 and then started in September of 2021. And then it took me about a year to finish school, which is pretty average. Some people finish it a little bit sooner. Some people finish it a little bit later, just kind of depending on their timeline. But I finished in September 2022. So it's been officially 3 years and a couple months since I have been an esthetician, and it's been so good. It's such a fun job.
Yeah.
I love it.
Liv has been, we've been friends pretty much since you graduated. We became friends around that time. And so it's been so cool to see your business grow and her clientele grow and things like that. And so what I really wanted to talk with Liv about on here, and just for our audience to get insight on, is I talk a lot about self-care when it comes to your mind, when it comes to what you're putting into your body. But I think there is stigmatisms around self-care when it comes to your skin and beauty services and seeing it as a luxury. And there are some things that are, maybe because you want to do something fun or for a special event, but there are so many that I think really do improve self-esteem and really are good necessities that you can use to better yourself and to just take care of yourself. And so what are some services that you feel like you've seen clients benefit from, and that you've seen them you've watched their self-esteem kind of grow?
Honestly, I would say all of them, because I think in some way or another, everybody has their thing. Some people really like to get their nails done. Some people want their hair done. Some people want their lashes. And honestly, I think that the beauty industry is so diverse, and there's so many services that you can offer and so many ways that you can not necessarily improve yourself, but improve your confidence. And, because I think that, like you said, people kind of think that, it's maybe shallow or a little vanity, you know what I'm saying? I feel like if you can show up as feeling confident and feeling put together, you can show up in the best way for your clients, for, the people in your life. And so, but I am an advocate for comfy clothes at the salon sometimes, because I think that, for me, that works with me and my clients, and they show up comfy, I show up comfy.
And it really is so true. People say that the way that you show up in the world and the way that you represent yourself, if you are feeling confident in how you're looking, you are acting confident. You are acting more yourself and more secure in what you're saying and more outgoing, maybe even. And so having these things, these services that you go and get done, and having those improve your self-esteem, and you're able to show up as your best self, you're able to improve other aspects of your life through that, or maybe feel motivated to do that. One thing that happens sometimes when you are a beauty service provider or an esthetician is your clients are talking to you. They're telling you all about their life, all about everything going on with them. And I've never had it happen, I'm not a service provider, but I'm sure that sometimes it can feel a little bit draining energy wise, or maybe you're, taking it on, especially if it's clients that you super care about or really well. So what are some advice that you could give to new coming estheticians on how to kind of set those emotional boundaries?
Absolutely. I think that this is a great topic because, we always hear the joke of like estheticians or hairstylists or, nail techs being like a therapist, like you get to go to therapy and then you show up with, good lashes after. And honestly, I think that it is great to have that personal connection with your clients. That is what's going to keep people wanting to come back to you, is when you are creating an environment that feels safe and friendly and they feel like they can talk to you, And so I think that it is kind of a fine line of like getting to know your clients and building relationships with them, but also not taking their problems on as your own or taking that kind of home and letting it affect you there. So one of the biggest things that I would say is therapy. And I've always said this to all my friends, I just think that everybody needs therapy and everybody can get something off their chest, to somebody who is a professional and can give you some useful ways to cope and, just kind of sort through all those things. So I think definitely creating those boundaries with clients is important. And just kind of, I was talking to Lex about this earlier, just like when you show up to an appointment, you are going to transfer your energy onto your clients as well. So if you're showing up kind of feeling, sad or angry or whatever the emotion is, I think that it's best to check that at the door and show up with a positive, uplifting attitude, because then your clients are going to feel more comfortable and maybe that will help with their day too.
Yeah, it's so true. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, and it's so true, especially in like a service. I feel like it's already such a transfer of energy. You're in someone's personal space. And so they are able to feel, if you are feeling off that day or if you're having a hard day. And I'm sure it is so hard sometimes to leave your things at the door, but really, I'm sure at some point you kind of get present, and like being so present kind of makes it easier to kind of leave those things for a second and just focus on you and your client and like the service that you're providing. So for our audience members that maybe have never gone to get any skincare services done, what would you recommend for people who maybe struggle with acne if they're just starting to look into beauty services? What are some good, affordable ones for acne?
One of my favorite things for people who are acne prone and people who have some inflammation would be icing the face. Super cheap. You can just get that at home. You know what I'm saying? You can also get like ice rollers and things like that. But those things you need to like clean in between. And so I feel like honestly, just straight ice works great. And it's great for helping with inflammation. It's great for acne prone skin. And I think that that's a pretty good affordable option for people. And then personally, I have had great experiences with Face Reality skincare, and they are on the cheaper side of the skincare world. And I think that I haven't had a ton of experience with them, but personally, when I've used some of their products, I've noticed some really big difference. I'm very acne prone. And so I would say that's amazing. You can do honey masks or, manual lymphatic drainage is really awesome for like just keeping the blood flow going.
I actually do want to pick your brain on lymphatic drainage because I feel like that is such a trend right now. Like everyone is seeing gua shas on TikTok Shop or like the vibrating plates for lymphatic drainage. What benefits do you feel like come from lymphatic drainage?
I think that home care is the most important thing. You can always go and get a service, and that's amazing. But really what you're doing at home is going to make the biggest difference in your results and how consistent you are with doing your home care. So I would say obviously inflammation. People have seen crazy results with like their jawline and, things like that. But it's also really great for like flushing those toxins and like any buildup that you've got kind of in those lymph nodes. And so that can really help with slimming the face, kind of contouring it, tightening, like a lifted effect. So I feel like that one is really great for a home care thing. You can always get that done from your esthetician, but I think if you find something at home that you can do consistently, that's going to be the best results for you.
Yeah, I think it is awesome that you are giving so many home care options, because there are so many people that don't even know that there are things really that they can do at home. And so it's always cool to be like, okay, I can be doing these things at home even after I get my service done or before I get my service done, to keep the results kind of long lasting. So I kind of want to talk a little bit now on people going into the esthetician industry, because we live in Utah. Utah is very predominant in the beauty industry, the hairstyle industry, the skincare industry right now. A lot of girls are starting to go into it right out of high school, which is amazing, but they're going into it not really knowing what to expect. And I think there's probably so much trial and error in deciding how to set your boundaries and how to set your hours and things like that. A lot of people starting a business like that struggle with setting boundaries with hours. And even Liv was talking with me about how at first she struggled, texting clients at like 10 p.m. and things like that. So how did you kind of find your middle ground of the hours and like the time that you put into your business?
So, like you said with the hours, I think it's important to be able to separate your work with your home life. I love my job. It's something that I really, really enjoy, and it's something that I have done as a hobby in the past before I was licensed. And so it's something that I enjoy, but it does become a job like any other job when you're there all of the time and putting a lot of work into it. And so I think it is good to have a separation a little bit of home and business. So I think that like setting those hours with clients of, I'm not going to respond back until, the next morning. Or, if I'm with a client, I'm going to be present with my client that I'm with right now, and I can text them later. And so I think that one's a good one. Along with setting those boundaries with clients, I think that it is important for you not to have your time wasted, and just to be able to be taken seriously in the beauty industry. I think that everybody should have like a cancellation fee, their card on file when they book, just because that can help prevent people from not showing up. If they don't have a cancellation fee and they book it and they just don't really feel like coming, or spending the money or whatever their reason is, they're more likely to cancel. But if you have a cancellation fee or a late policy, I think that those things are very important to implement, because then your time isn't wasted and all of your other clients. Because if you're having somebody run 30 minutes late and it's going to cut into somebody else's appointment, that can be really annoying. So I think that just being able to have those firm boundaries is really important, and will save you in the long run too, of just not having as many hiccups with clients.
And it's so true. Like, the provider's time is so valuable. Like Liv was saying, if it runs into another, client's time, or, if you're going out of your way to try and be at the salon or at the studio for a specific client and then they no show, you deserve to be paid for your time. And I just seeing on social media, I feel like a lot of providers kind of run into an issue where they feel like they can't, or they feel like, oh, I'm going to lose clients if I do a cancellation policy, or if I'm going to not have people book with me as often because of that. But at the same time, it's kind of like you're weeding out the people who are not sticking with it and are just kind of like wishy-washy on even getting the service in the first place. And so it makes so the spots that you get secured are more sticky, is the best word I can think of right now. Like, they're more likely to follow through because they've already invested money in your service.
There's been a couple of times too where I've had to just tell people, you know what, I don't think that this is working out and I think that you aren't getting what you want out of this. So I think that finding a new esthetician might be the right option, and that does not happen very often. And some people have never had to do that, and some people who have been in the industry for 20 years totally understand that, you know. But sometimes it's for the best. If they're paying this money and they're not satisfied, sometimes it's best for them to go somewhere else too. If you feel like you're giving your all and nothing is good enough. Sometimes for your mental health, I think that it is good to, you know. And the nice thing about this industry too is that, you know, you kind of also get to pick your clients too. Once you're more booked and fully busy, you're able to, you know, if there's somebody who's no-showed you the last 5 appointments, hopefully it never gets to that, right? But, you know, that's somebody that you probably don't want on your books all the time, because potentially you are losing more money and your time is wasted.
Yeah. How important would you say is it, once you've kind of started building your clientele, to make sure that your clients are people that energetically you kind of align with, even if you have like different beliefs, different, you know, whatever stances on things, just energetically being able to understand each other? How important would you say that is in being able to do your job in the way that you would like to?
So important. I think from day one, you need to make sure that, you know, you are also putting yourself first, because, you know, it can be, I mean, there's some client horror stories, you know what I'm saying? And same with service providers, you know, sometimes it just doesn't work out and sometimes people aren't a great fit. But I think it is good to find those clients who are going to be able to build a relationship with you. And having that relationship is really important with your clients, because you do spend quite a long time, you know, with them, especially if they're like a regular. It's going to be like you're spending a good chunk of time. And so, you know, maybe a client is draining your energy. And I think that there's ways that you can kind of go about that. But I think the most important thing is just standing up for yourself, because you don't want to be attracting, you know, that kind of a client base. You want to be able to, you're in control of that. And so you should be able to, you know, use that to your advantage.
Yeah. What would you say for you was kind of the biggest mindset shift you had to get out of, because it is kind of a lack mindset to be sticking with clients that maybe aren't the best for you, because you worry that maybe you're not going to get other ones, or maybe there's not going to be someone to fill their spot. For you, what was the biggest way that you were able to shift your mind on that and have a more abundance mindset of like, whatever clients are aligned with me will find me?
I think that word of mouth is one of the most amazing things about this industry. I think those are always my favorite clients. I mean, I love all of my clients, but when I have a friend or a regular who is coming to me and they're able to, you know, reach out to their friends and spread the word about my business, those people always, I feel like, consider my time and are good clients in the long run, because somebody's also really not going to recommend you to somebody that they don't think is good. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a job interview. Like, you wouldn't really want to, like, I don't know, recommend your friend for the job and then they suck, you know?
For Esties that just got out of school, maybe they have a spot at a spa or a salon, or maybe they're still looking for one and they don't really have clients coming in. Maybe they have a few from school, but it's kind of like that hump that you're getting over. What tips would you give for getting through that first period where you don't have many clients coming in?
Building a clientele definitely is interesting. It's a lot of work. I think that we talked about this earlier, but word of mouth is amazing for bringing in clients. You know, if you're doing a service for somebody and they like it, they're going to go tell everyone. You know, if you're getting lash extensions or getting your nails done or any kind of service like that, and they're excited about it, most of the time they're going to tell somebody about it and how much they love it. And half the time, I'd say, they're probably going to book too, their friend, you know, because taking care of ourselves and finding those ways that we can do self-care is so amazing. And I think that it truly is important to treat yourself. I think also another great thing is, if you are fresh out of school looking to build a clientele, starting in a salon versus kind of going out on your own.
So, kind of the last few things we're going to talk about wrapping up this episode is there's some rhetoric online sometimes from estheticians in the industry who may be shaming people for just not really knowing better, not knowing better when it comes to skincare, not knowing better when it comes to the type of products that they're using. And so, what would you say for maybe SDs who do shame clients or people online who don't really know any better?
Yeah, social media is a whole different ballgame, I think. I think that it can be a very useful tool in this industry. A lot of people love booking from, Instagram. And if they can see your portfolio, basically, of all of the services that you offer or what you are best at, if they're seeing it, they're more likely to want to book. I think it's important as SDs to try to uplift our clients more than picking them apart or shaming them for things that they're already doing. I talk about this a lot with my skincare rep that comes and sees me. She also has a podcast. It's Beyond Aesthetics. So amazing. She's so great. And she talks a lot about too the social media side of it and how posting you need to be a little bit careful about how you go about it, because if you're shaming people for the way that they do their skincare, or if they're using beef tallow, or if they're using St. Ives scrub, some things that like maybe are kind of seen as a negative. We were always taught in Paul Mitchell too that if it's working for somebody, don't shame them, because really if they're coming to you and they're looking to add something into their skincare, if something's working great for them, offer them something else that they can add to it, or something that might even be a little bit of a better replacement if you are seeing that they are suffering from that product. But I think that, just posting online, we need to be careful about making jokes and stuff like that. But I think that, making people feel dumb for not knowing when they simply just aren't taught is not going to motivate them to, want to share what they're doing.
And it does, digital footprint is so real. And if someone who has never gotten a service before, doesn't know anything really about skincare, beauty industry, because they haven't been taught, sees your page and you're talking negative about people who don't know any better, they're not going to feel comfortable to come to you. And so if you have a welcoming space, I feel like your social media is such a representation of kind of the energy you bring. Like Liv was saying, it really is like your portfolio that people can just see. They see more of your personality on your social media than they could through kind of your website, if that makes sense, from videos, songs you use, and just the things that you post about. And so if you're posting things that are welcoming and insightful, they'll feel more comfortable coming to you because they won't feel judged. But if you're posting things that are more negative and judgmental, they're gonna feel nervous going to a provider like that.
And I think that, basically it's just kind of the energy that you bring to your appointment, and making sure that, if somebody comes in for a facial and you're saying, oh my gosh, you've got this acne and you've got this hyperpigmentation and you've got this dryness, and, kind of just picking them apart with maybe insecurities that they didn't even know that they had, but now it's an insecurity because they're like, oh, I didn't realize that I had hyperpigmentation or something like that. So I think also kind of focusing on what is your goal today? What would you like to see from this service? It could be with lashes or anything like that. Just kind of getting, and what do you like about your skin? What do you like about your brows? What do you want to see from this appointment? I think is a better approach than kind of just, you never want to create an insecurity for somebody that they haven't, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like our goal is to have our clients come to us and they leave feeling better than when they came in, and not the opposite.
Just being able to, like you were saying, just making them feel better about themselves than when they got there. Because like you were saying, you might bring out insecurities in someone that they literally had never had even crossed their mind. And power of words is so crazy. I think we all could think of something that someone's maybe said to us at some point and we're like, what the hell? I didn't even know that was like, I didn't even notice that. Yeah. And so it is so important when you are being in someone's personal space like that, maybe doing something for them that's like a little bit more vulnerable, like on their body is such a vulnerable place. And so being careful kind of with what you say and like saying things that make them more comfortable instead of more uncomfortable. So Liv, the last thing that I want to ask you today is, like I was saying, we are in Utah, and Utah I feel like is very known right now, especially with Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, for beauty industry, beauty services, and esthetician work a lot of girls are going into. And some people have a stigma around it because they see it as not hard work and not a hard business to come into. And so for girls that maybe are scared to go into it in fear of being judged for the job that they're going into, what advice would you give them?
I think that a trade is honestly one of the smartest things that you can do. I think that college is not for everybody, but I think that going into something that you're passionate about is going to be your best bet. So if you're not really passionate about skincare or nails or hair, I mean, you might not love it, but I think that if you are passionate about it, I think that that is an amazing kind of hobby that you can create into a career, and people can thrive. I think it really just is kind of up to you and how much you're willing to dedicate. With the aesthetics industry, specifically skin, it is a lot of anatomy based and kind of learning about the body and learning about the skin and how it works. And so it is kind of seen more as something that is maybe not taken seriously, but it is something that I think is really important to be licensed in, to go to somebody who is licensed too, because they know the theory behind all the services that you're doing. Because I think, you know, you can perform a service, but if you don't know why you're doing this enzyme mask, or if you don't know, you know, a lot about lash lifts and tints, you can really cause some damage if you don't really know what you're doing with chemical peels, microneedling, all of those intense treatments. I think it is really important to have that knowledge of why you're doing that and what you need to look out for so your clients are getting the best results and not having, you know, some problems happening, some chemical burns, things like that. So I think that it is kind of seen as maybe not taken seriously or not a big, you know, like an important career. But I think that we get to make people feel good every day. And I think that that is something that I love about my job, is just being able to connect with people, being able to make people feel good. And I love that I can give them good advice on skincare or lashes or brows and things like that, and just help them feel more confident.
Thank you, Liv, for joining us today. So exciting. If you are in Utah, I really recommend going to Liv. I've gotten multiple services done by Liv. She's amazing, truly the best. So I'll have all of her information linked down below. Even if you're not in Utah, I recommend following her page. We were talking a lot about beauty pages that are uplifting and just have like good vibes, good energy, and Liv's truly is that. So make sure you go and follow her beauty page, even if you're not in the Utah area. And thank you, Liv, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I love getting to be a guest on Lex's podcast. It's so fun. I'm like, it's crazy that I was one of the first to, you know, and just seeing her evolve. She's amazing. And truly, I'm like, I'm not good at talking on camera, but she's amazing. It's so cool to see. I love it.
Thanks, girl. Yeah, Liv was here from like, Liv was one of the people hyping me up about even starting Sincerely Self in the first place before it even had a name or anything like that. So it's so fun to be doing multiple episodes together and just, I don't know, being able to talk about what we do together. So fun.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and this is going to be uploaded on Valentine's Day, so period.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, guys. If you're in a relationship, if you're not in a relationship, self-care and self-love truly is the most important relationship in your life, and taking care of yourself. You really can't fill anyone else's cup until you fill your own. And so taking steps of doing things that make you feel good about yourself is such an amazing way to be able to feel more comfortable in your skin, and in that way be able to show up for the people in your life in a better way. So this Valentine's Day, we really encourage you to embrace your self-love and embrace the things that make you feel good about yourself, and get your services done, girl. If it makes you feel good, then that's all that matters.
Treat yourself.
Yeah, treat yourself. And I will see you guys next week.